3. Camelot Castle, Kirkham, New South Wales. If ever there was a mansion built for tragedy, it is the sprawling, turreted Gothic manor known as Camelot. Completed around 1888 in Kirkham, New South Wales, its original owner was the wealthy politician and champion horsebreeder James White. With its dramatic peaks, gables, and magnificent stained-glass windows, the residence was quickly seen as a real-life fairy tale castle, though its existence was anything but magical. White died in the house in 1890, only 2 years after its completion, beginning a dark pattern of tragic final acts. A subsequent owner, Francis Faithful Anderson, renamed it Camelot, embracing the romantic legend, but the house remained cursed. Her husband, William Anderson, tragically took his own life on the property in 1912. The mother and daughter remained, only to pass away within the same haunted walls decades later in 1948 and 1979 respectively. The history of Camelot after these tragedies has been marked by an escalating sense of malevolence and sorrow, suggesting a deep-seated spiritual stain that goes beyond simple residual haunting. The saddest and most commonly observed spirit is the crying bride. This apparition, a forlorn female figure, is often seen lingering on the main balcony or peering out from the large, arched windows of the central turret. Witnesses describe her as being consumed by profound, silent sorrow, leading many to believe she is linked to the Anderson family or perhaps a tragic, jilted staff member. The experience of seeing her is intensely empathetic. A number of visitors report being overcome by a sudden, crushing feeling of melancholy and a significant drop in ambient temperature near her location. The spirits of Camelot, however, are not always passive. The family who purchased the house in the 1960s to restore it experienced highly aggressive poltergeist activity. They reported lights turning on and off at will when the house was empty, and doors being inexplicably slammed shut and rattled violently in defiance of the new owners. Most disturbingly, an unconfirmed but persistent and deeply unsettling legend centers around the violent murder of pets. The restoring family claimed to have come home to discover their animals, including chickens in the poultry run and their pet parrot in its cage, had been brutally strangled and choked to death, along with a litter of kittens mysteriously murdered on the grounds. This suggests a highly aggressive, anti-life entity or collection of entities residing within the ancient walls, actively hostile to new life and companionship. Camelot Castle, with its storybook facade masking a history of suicide, death, and possible supernatural violence, continues to stand as one of New South Wales's most chillingly beautiful historical monuments, a place where the past refuses to rest. 2. Rupertswood Mansion, Sunbury, Victoria. Rupertswood Mansion is a colonial masterpiece, a towering architectural declaration built in 1876 that perfectly mimics the look and scale of a European baronial castle. Located in Sunbury, Victoria, it was the creation of Sir William Clark, one of Australia's wealthiest and most influential men. The 50-room mansion, with its grand central tower and fortress-like stone facade, was built not just for living, but for showing off. It was a magnet for the elite, and holds the unique distinction of being the birthplace of one of the world's greatest sporting traditions, the Ashes cricket urn, presented here in 1882. Sir William died in 1897, and the mansion passed through hands until 1927, when it was acquired by the Salesian Society and converted into a prestigious college. The change in ownership did little to cleanse the powerful spiritual atmosphere that had settled into the stone walls. The history after the Clarks is defined by recurring apparitions and the sounds of sorrow echoing in the empty wings. The most famous and frequently cited spirit is the Grey Lady. She is believed to be the sad ghost of a maid who tragically succumbed to influenza or a similar illness in the early 20th century. Her full-bodied apparition, draped in a long, sorrowful grey dress, is repeatedly seen on the enormous main staircase or pacing the empty, second-floor hallways. Witnesses describe feeling an immediate and profound sense of deep melancholy and overwhelming cold as she passes, suggesting a ghost that carries her sorrow with her. For decades, students, teachers, and caretakers have logged chilling audio experiences. When the mansion is locked and silent late at night, the unmistakable sound of heavy, measured footsteps can be heard walking the length of the top balcony, a sound often followed by an eerie, rhythmic knocking that seems to emanate from within the thick walls of the unused wing, only to cease the moment a light is flickered on. Adding to the mansion's repertoire of woe is the spirit of a young, playful boy. This phantom child is sighted darting through the grand corridors and tumbling down the ornate stairwell, only to vanish at the landing. He is often blamed for minor, startling poltergeist activity, such as the inexplicable rattling of locked doors and the sudden, solitary flickering of lights in rooms that should be completely dark. Today, Rupertswood continues its life as a functioning college and event venue, its grandeur preserved. But every person who steps into its looming shadow understands that they share the space with the silent, sorrowful staff and the tragic figures whose shadows remain cast upon the old stone walls of this Victoria castle. 1. Coombe Cottage, Dame Nellie Melba's home, Coldstream, Victoria. Before it became a site of spectral serenades, Coombe Cottage was the meticulously curated sanctuary of a global titan, Dame Nellie Melba. In 1909, the world's most celebrated opera singer sought refuge in Coldstream, Victoria, transforming a simple dairy farm into a magnificent manor house and renaming it for the valley it overlooked. This was no dusty old castle, it was a fortress of Edwardian elegance, designed to host royalty, politicians, and her fellow international elite. For over 2 decades, Melba ruled this estate, commissioning breathtaking gardens, planting a now legendary 700-meter cypress hedge, and establishing a space so fundamentally hers that she only ever left it when absolutely required to perform. Her father, David Mitchell, a prominent builder, helped perfect the home, unknowingly anchoring his daughter to this earthly location forever. Melba passed away in 1931, and the estate has been lovingly, though unnervingly, maintained by her descendants, the Vesti family, ensuring that the environment for her enduring presence remains perfectly preserved. The history after her death is a symphony of subtle, high society hauntings. Dame Nellie Melba, the strict perfectionist who ruled the opera stage and her staff with an iron fist, simply refused to take her final curtain call. The most enchanting, and yet most chilling, encounter is the Phantom Opera. Visitors, gardeners, and staff alike have reported hearing the unmistakable sound of a crystal-clear soprano voice drifting from the empty music room. It's often the sound of a woman practicing a complex vocal scale or humming an unfinished aria. The voice is beautiful, often mournful, and always disembodied, vanishing the moment a curious listener steps across the threshold. It's an auditory hallucination of the highest order, leading people to believe the great diva is forever locked in rehearsal. But she is more than just a song. The ghost of Dame Melba appears to be a protective, meticulous poltergeist. Her private rooms, which contain her treasured artifacts, including her delicate shoes, famous hats, and opera gowns, are the epicenter of strange activity. Objects have been known to mysteriously fall or shift if touched or handled incorrectly by strangers, an apparent supernatural rebuke from the fastidious owner. Furthermore, staff have consistently reported acute, inexplicable cold spots in the hallways and near the grand staircase, often accompanied by the distinct, fleeting scent of expensive French perfume, a scent Melba wore constantly in life, now signaling her spectral proximity. Coombe Cottage remains today an active residence, restaurant, and event venue. Every visitor knows that when they tour the manicured gardens or step into the quiet elegance of the living room, they are doing so under the perpetual, critical gaze of its original, otherworldly mistress.